Hello, everyone, and welcome to This Week in Hospitality Digital Marketing, show number 144, count of 44, live from Portland, Oregon, and from sunny, happy Orlando, Florida.
That's right.
Mr. Edward St. Ange with Flip2. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning. I'm wonderful. How are you?
Well, considering that I'm dressed in a suit at 7:30 in the morning, well, that's when at least was dressed in a suit, and it's now 8:30. I don't know, itchy, uncomfortable. But I'm feeling styled. I'm out here with HSMEI's Rocket program. This is the last leg of this week, and then I get to go to Vancouver next week to speak for the chapter, or to the chapter over there, about stuff that we talk about every Friday.
My gosh, man.
Yeah,
you are a dedicated shepherd of information for HSMAI.
Well, I figure if I keep planting my thought processes out in the world, that I'll be what just like out of Guardians of the Galaxy 2. You know, I'm going to be a planet.
Hey, spoiler alert for those who are way behind.
Yeah, right. So anyway, Mr. Robert Cole, the actual founder of our topics of discussion today, Mr. Robert, sir.
The ever-present.
Ever-present? Well, I wasn't present a second ago. So.
we felt you. Hey, by the way, look, I got a fish. I got a fish behind me. I'm in Portland, so of course you have to have a fish. Actually, I'm at a really cool hotel. It's called the Dossier. Pretty much in the heart of downtown. Yes, actually, it's got that vibe. They've for a hotel, they're very definitive as to the market they're looking for, and it is very much a reflection of the community that the hotel's sitting in. And I have to say, it's a little refreshing because you get this homogeny of brand. Like, we'll take anybody and we'll act like we're catering to you. And this is like, nope. We like guys with man buns, and we like people with tattoos and that enjoy incredibly robust coffee. And want to go over and ride a bicycle and hike, and that's their mindset.
Well, Lauren, is your attire some sort of providing a counterpoint to that, or
yes,
if you can turn around, can you show us? Are you wearing a faux man bun? I mean, that's always a possibility.
Well, I was going to glue one on just for the effect today, but no. This is because I'm speaking, as mentioned earlier, HSMI's Rocket program. Here, Mr. Tim Peter and Associates, sir. How are you?
I'm lovely. How are you all today?
Oh,
you are lovely.
Yes.
That is how everyone always describes.
That's true. You can ask anybody.
Peter, I know he's lovely.
Yes.
What a lovely gent.
And you seem to have this kind of Mexican tan glow about you. I mean, like,
Is that code?
He's now a delightful eggshell color.
That's right. For a change, I almost don't blend into the wall behind me.
Right.
There is contrast to this.
The flat white behind you is no longer stealing your profile and the lovely eggshell coloring that you picked up while being in the sun.
Exactly.
Hey, I have to say that this is the first time that I think I actually rival a little bit of Ed's background. I have ambient lighting, contrast, angular vision, 1/3 cut, and colorful background. I'm like, and dress for communication.
Right.
You know, it's really funny. I always realize when I'm on the show the fact how blank the wall behind me is. But in my office, everything is on the wall that I look at.
Right.
You know, and I never, and I've got something on the wall over here, and then there's closet doors.
Yeah, but by the same token, you have guitars that you actually play behind.
Right.
That's true. By the way, I mentioned a couple weeks ago, I said I'd bring one of the other basses in. So that's
nice.
That's very nice.
That's my. This is actually a cheaper bass than the other one, but I love it.
The hollow body bass. Yeah, I had a Vox bass, similar style of that.
We're going retro. Should we do that out of the Wayne's World? All right.
Everyone can tell that Lauren's been preparing to speak today because
he's all amped up.
He's like, "Hey guys, I'm ready to go.
I think it's yeah.
Caffeine level here is like having a home brew at 9%. You're good to go after the first cup. Hey, Mr. Robert, bring us back to reality. Hospitality topics. You've grabbed a bunch of them plus a few really fun rot rows, and then I'll throw in some.
Well, I think Yeah, you guys like the rut rows?
I'm not touching
that was a test.
rut row with a 10-foot pole, and I mean that on every possible level.
Well, okay. Well, so to let
this was after Tim. Yeah, after Tim's attendance there last year, he figured, he brought a 10-foot pole, and it did not go well.
Okay,
what's funny is I didn't think Robert was going to put that in the rut rows because his tripit last week saying he was going to be in Vegas kind of gives him away.
So the people understand what we're
inside joke, yeah.
So I'll let you guys fill the joke, but for people to understand, we try to keep this as relevant as possible. Robert has really taken it upon himself and done a wonderful job of aggregating the stories that we then distribute to all the boards at HSMEI. But he does it at the last moment, so that it's the most relevant stuff late Thursday night. So we get this list of all these topics, and he picked some very interesting topics. Mr. Robert, why did you select some of these topics, sir?
Well, they were hot topics, and
they were why number 14, Robert?
Yes, why topic that one?
Why number 14? I thought was a very interesting one from a hotel perspective, since it is a hotel takeover. Right?
Well, I will suggest
hypothetically,
you definitely don't want to go to the Embassy Suites on June 2nd. The Embassy Suites in Las Vegas on June 2nd, unless you want to go to the Embassy Suites on June 2nd in Las Vegas, and that's entirely on you, man. But
no, I put the link up since Robert is being shy, so.
Well, and actually, because of that, since we're starting with the rut row, I thought it would be interesting to test, what kind of overlap? Because again, when you do a complete hotel takeover, you need to kind of clear the hotel of all the other guests. It was interesting, though. I was able to get through the Embassy Suites reservations process to the shopping cart with 2 adults and 2 children, arriving, I believe, May 29th, departing June 1st, May 31st. So overlapping the first day of the conference only, then it was closed out.
By the way, for the record, for those of you who don't know what we're talking about, on June 2nd in Las Vegas, there is an adult entertainment event, is what we're going to categorize that.
Okay.
I think it's more participation.
Well,
because there's
audience participation in Las Vegas.
But what I don't know is why shooting
for
data off of boingboing.net.
Yeah, what is that?
What is that all about, Robert? What's it?
You never heard of Boing Boing?
Boing Boing's a real site.
That's a real site.
Oh yeah,
I know it's a real site. I just want to know why you're trolling it for content. I don't. Just why are you keeping the news alerts off of boingboing.net? That's all I want to know.
How things. I think this one actually popped up from someone in my Facebook feed, and I can't remember. I don't know. Was it Ed, Tim, Stuart, Holly? I don't know. Somebody. It was there. One of my friends on Facebook. Maybe.
I mean, to be fair, I did comment on your TripIt post to stay at the Embassy Suites in Las Vegas in June. So, I mean, maybe that's why it popped up again. But I was responding to your post.
Anyway, to be clear, in the sense of full disclosure, yes, there's an organization. Apparently, this is the 8th time, I believe, they've met in Vegas. Judging from the title of it, they're shooting for the world's largest orgy.
Why do you keep saying shooting?
People.
Shooting is such an inappropriate word to use.
I guess I should mention to you all that we might be some in the viewership today might be some representatives from Alhoa, who I was adamant about making sure they join our show.
Oh, great. So you guys brought it up.
I didn't bring this up. You introduced the topic, Robert.
That was number 14 for Rut Row, and there were 2 Rut Rows, which we can talk about the last Rut Row at the appropriate time. No, but the interesting part of this is first it's just the content of it, but to actually close out a hotel completely to do this is I don't know. It's a bold statement. These events need to be held somewhere, and I'm not sure what the rates are and that sort of thing.
The cleanup
But to bring this to another context as well is, I'm from running hotels previously too. There are circumstances culturally based sometimes where the hotel needs to be sold in its entirety. You have religious events with the Jewish community. You have marriage events with the Indian community, and because of the intensity and density of what you're dealing with, the kitchen needs to be transformed. All your meeting space needs to be transformed.
Absolutely.
Considerations for cultural variations have to be, and so there are reasons why hotels make that big decision to literally lock their door against anybody else. So and this could be one of those circumstances. So
and you also need to make sure everyone's out before, which winds up impacting your revenue certainly on days preceding and days following for people to come.
Even though I had a hotel in Florida that was close to Cape Canaveral, and when the president and the family came down, our hotel was chosen because of security reasons. We locked out the whole hotel. There was no choice to it. If we were going to give this piece of business for security reasons, you had a 3/4 empty hotel, but you had a very well-defined market strategy. Like, look who stays here.
Right. And that's very, very typical, having worked in hotels where there have been presidential visits. I mean, they wind up combing, there's background checks on all the staff. They want to see the full guest list of who's in there, what's going on, and very very constrained access to food, to the public for food and beverage outlets and things like that. Yeah,
and the equipment that they bring ahead of time to scan your building is absolutely mind blowing. This goes back a decade, so I can only imagine what they have now. Anyway, we digress.
My favorite was the Sheraton Center in New York, where I think it was relatively new when it opened, and they decided, I can't remember if it was Republican or Democratic National Convention, but they come in and the Secret Service is like boring holes in the walls and stringing communication cables outside the hotel to make sure there's something. They're like, no, our new don't do that. So, but I guess they pay for all that.
So from a hospitality perspective, and since it's relevant to me, since I'm doing the HSMEI tour at this point, it is a remarkable question that never can get answered. When I ask the group, what is your direct channel contribution percentage? No one has an answer.
Right.
They don't know. And then if you even ask them, what is their most productive channel? Just what is your most productive channel then? They don't know. And you got to wonder, how do you budget the process? How do you define your strategies if you're not knowing where your source of revenue is, or what your revenue is generating from the sources that you have? And it's one of those things that it is one of those repetitive, mind-blowing perspectives of things that I just don't seem to understand from a revenue management or marketing perspective, that nobody can actually put a construct around that. I don't know. I'm throwing a serious conversation into it, but
you mean to say guessing is not an appropriate answer?
Oh no, this seems to be the norm.
I've traditionally used a roulette wheel to take the guessing out of the equation.
Put a little science into it.
Yeah. Exactly. At least the randomization. At least you have a randomizer. Right?
Exactly.
But yeah, I figured since I have such a short window to be able to stay in participation today, I thought I'd throw something, topically to me, because it's now turned into a bit of a Vanguard banner where it's like, okay, guys, if anything you get out of this conversation, go back and answer that question, because until you do, you don't know what to do. I mean, it's as simple as that.
Well, you need metrics and analytics and KPIs and things like that, so you're measuring your performance as an organization, right? I mean, that's kind of a fundamental thing. And a lot of these hotels don't really have those beyond maybe ADR, occupancy percentage, and RevPAR. And then maybe on the ownership side, they're looking at some sort of net operating profit or something like that. But I mean, that's, or certain management contracts will have GOP thresholds and things like that have to get met. And beyond that, it gets to be a little bit more art than science, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, very true, very true.
So Lauren,
go ahead.
I don't know if you want to talk about and I'm having problems with Facebook here, with the Facebook Connect. I'm not sure why, but I can't seem to get the article posted. So, there we go. Okay, probably just my computer messing up. But the top story I had for today was hotel direct distribution benefits debunked, which was the ETTSA, which is an industry group in Europe representing the online travel agencies and intermediaries, came out with a research study basically saying that, hey, direct bookings for hotels are expensive and really just as much as really getting something through an intermediary. So, anyone care to discuss?
Yes, because you also posted the rebuttal that Max from Hebs put up.
Max Starkoff, yeah.
Like in all good arguments, there are three stories, and the true story is not represented in either of the two that you present.
Right, exactly, which is why we are here.
Let's clarify. The third correct story is always Ed's story. Just so everyone knows, there's your version, and then the true version is the Ed version.
And in this case, I'm going to give you the truth. Each story has elements of truth to specific situations. So in Max's, he leans on a cost of direct channel for his clients, and is being truthful by saying that his direct clients are 4- and 5-star properties. And so he's talking about the cost of the direct channel as a percentage of the revenue made off that channel. Well, his properties that he's using to come up with this very low percentage are very high ADR properties.
And his percentage was, I think, between 4% and 5%, right? Something like that.
Right.
Yeah, 4 to 6%, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and because Max doesn't sell booking engines, I'm sure he's oversimplifying the additional cost that can get racked up in that direct channel. You know, because depending on what booking engine you have, you're either paying a flat fee or a percentage, and depending on what property management system you have and how they charge for connectivity to that booking engine and whether or not it's connected, that can also have effect on that.
Yes.
And then based on how you apply your annual costs to like CRM and the things that Max does provide, you can make that number go up or down.
Staff overheads, the whole enchilada.
Yeah, so I'm going to say that both sides use available truthful data and specific cases to paint a picture that it can be more expensive on the direct channel, or it can be less expensive on the direct channel. What it really depends on is your specific situation. Now, what I think both of these articles do tell you is you should make some effort to understand during different situations, when is it more expensive to book on the direct channel versus when is it, more expensive to book on the OTA? Because there are going to be periods of demand in your market that no matter how much you spend, you will not be able to push a certain amount of demand in your way.
That's exactly right.
So on those certain occasions, it's actually far more efficient and cost effective to lean on the OTA. And then there are days that the OTA is so expensive because your market demand is so high that it doesn't make sense to have the OTA.
And those conditions, you don't always have full control.
There may be times where it's more expensive to drive direct bookings, but strategically it's a better long-term option.
I would say yes. But I'd like to add a little bit of a caveat to this, and I was hoping Stuart would have been able to join us by this point. He said he was going to jump in a little bit late because he heard me whine or emotionally be frustrated about the lack of connectivity issues associated with all the hidden mysteries below the hood that don't get discussed in these conversations. The connectivity of dot-to-dot communications, the ability to draw data correct or the data that's needed correctly into what you're using. Because I have frustrations with that from just a logistics point of view with clients and so forth, that a product is brought in and it's supposed to be blended to products that you have in existence that you're running, your PMS systems and CRM systems and so forth. But then the real true lack and walls begin to get developed where this doesn't connect to that, this doesn't do that you bought it for because it doesn't talk to that actually has the data. And it really dilutes the cost, or I shouldn't say dilutes, it aggravates, to Ed's point, the cost factor associated with the digital channel. Because now you're not including the cost of variation, the cost of API integration, the cost of data collection and integrations and so forth that have to be added in. When you buy the car, you got to put purchase price in. and you can't, and then dilute it over the times that you have it. And that doesn't happen. They just see it as, oh, it's a direct channel, and when it's all said and done, it's $4.58 a booking. No, that's the active process cost. That's not the cost of what you pay for the software access, what you pay for the integration values, and all that other stuff that has to get out.
And then even as a percentage, to a point that Tim made, if you really want to measure this correctly, if you are doing a good job keeping long-term relationships warm through CRM strategy, in your revenue analysis, you do need to have some type of benefit of customer lifetime value.
That's right.
So, like Navis, to make it really simple, they have kind of a rule of thumb of if you're just using the Navis CRM, and I'm sure Max probably has this number too, but Navis puts $125 lifetime value on having a guest's information. So that's on the low end, but you can simply just say, okay, of my direct bookings of the room revenue, add $125 to that, because that's the lifetime value of having that relationship direct on the low end. Now, if you're really good, it is. But to be fair, it's only the low end if you actually have a long tail marketing initiative. Now, if you're just using your CRM to blast out coupons on times of need, then I think $125 is high.
Because you're giving way too much credit for a non-repeating piece of business. And I even bring this up in conversations at the presentation as well. Is like Marriott made the choice to say that a lifetime value is calculated on 5 visitations, which is down from a historically used to be 12 visitations, because they say the permanence of the relationship doesn't exist as much, and the life cycle of a repeatability because of increased inventory, whatever, blah, 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 excuses they had, brings it down to only 5, which means technically you have to reset your acquisition cost on your 6th visit, even though technically it's their 6th. So
now, but that actually just to raise that point, which is interesting.
I mean, here's the thing: if you don't have data about the guest, you can't right?
Robert?
Oh no, that's okay. Tim was saying something.
Oh, I lost him. I lost him. I don't have Tim. I'm sorry. I'll be quiet. Go ahead.
No, what I meant was, you can have a second
Hey, Tim.
Tim, you are breaking. You are doing the Max Headroom voice for us.
Yes. Net neutrality is really beating you down, Tim.
You've got to, Oh,
that was bizarre. I didn't even hear Tim. I saw Tim Osnes as a black square, and I didn't hear him.
We had his picture, but I don't know. He's having some connectivity issues.
I have you guys on as administrators. We are running Facebook as the base platform today, only because we wanted the engagement levels, and I'm under the belief that if I bow out in a half hour.
Now is Lauren frozen? Okay, there you
go.
No, you froze up a little bit.
Lauren's fine. I can hear him fine. I think you froze up, Robert.
Yeah.
Oh, I froze up. Okay. Well, hey, I was going to make the point that so that was for an individual hotel. You said, Lauren, they went from 12 to 5?
5, yes.
Now, a very interesting stat, which I'm sure nobody would have access to outside of Bethesda, would be what is that number for Marriott as an umbrella organization? Right? So, what is the lifetime value for, across all these 30 Marriott brands and more? Because one of the other topics that came up was Tina Edmondson, I believe at the Skift Forum in Europe, basically said you can't have too many brands, right?
You brought up an interesting, and not to go geeky on math for just a second, but this should be a definable number for DMAs. If you figure total visitation annual, total inventory in market annual, and percentage of repeat business aggregate of all inventory in market, you could define a number that says this market has a repeat guest value of X number of times based on those kind of gross numbers. I mean,
and how you index against that, right?
Yeah, and how do you, Sorry, math geeky.
Yeah, well, no, but how you index against it based on, on maybe your hotel class and things like that, right? By breaking it out, because again, you get, certain properties. I mean, if you're a highway property out somewhere on, I-80 or I-90 in Wyoming, you may have a high repeat factor for people who are in sales or truck drivers, things like that, who stop by.
Right.
But for a whole nother segment, you're never going to see these people again, and they don't want to come back, sort of thing, because they have no purpose to be there.
Right.
So, yeah. So all of that stuff, I think, gets glossed over with a lot of these stats of, everything has to be direct. But I don't know. There was another topic. See, I'm just throwing these topics in like crazy, though, which I thought was very interesting. Which was another little skiffed article on not just for hotels. Booking Holdings has a direct strategy of its own, and you go, oh dear, yeah, maybe that is true. What are they doing to drive bookings? And I ran some stats last night on SimilarWeb. If you look at the dynamics of direct versus business versus search business on SimilarWeb for Marriott versus Hilton versus Booking.com versus Hotels.com, they are almost identical. I mean, it's absolutely amazing that I never really looked at those stats before, but these organizations are getting about the same amount of business. I think about 40% comes through search, about 30% is direct, and like somewhere in the 10% range is referral or something like that. Which is fairly startling, and not, I would think, with a lot of the hotel efforts. Now, again, I haven't dug in over time to see how that has shifted, which I think would be a very interesting analysis. But I'm not sure. But these OTAs have very, very strong direct. And certainly their SEO efforts, which have been quite good, are knocking it out of the park, killing the hotels.
We used to watch this pretty closely in my Wyndham days, which admittedly this is a little out of date, but some of it did have to do with a business cycle, right? During periods, this is a gross generalization, and obviously there's nuance in this, but when business was tougher, the OTAs did much better because consumers were looking for deals more, they were shopping around more, they were looking to spend a little less, etc. And when business
hotels are giving them more inventory, all that.
Hotels were giving them more inventory, exactly. When business was better, we did better. We, the brands, did better because people, they wanted one throat to choke, right? They wanted to know that everything was going to be taken care of and that they were going to be cool when they showed up and all that other kind of stuff. And they were less price conscious. So, there's a lot of pieces that play into this from that perspective. To go back to what we were talking about a moment ago, just for 1 second, because my internet, for some reason, hates when I do any kind of video streaming these days.
Net neutrality.
Just wait. Just wait till June.
I know.
Till after June 11th.
Oh, I know. When we talk about, first of all, I agree with everything you guys said. I think when we talk about, what is your cost of distribution, what is your distribution strategy, it's something you have to look at as a property and say, okay, what is this costing me? What are my legitimate costs? What is it worth to me to get direct access to the guest, to get them into my CRM, to get them as somebody I'm going to market to effectively in the future? And notice, Ed, I did say effectively because that absolutely matters. I loved your point about the OTAs. I'm pro OTA in some contexts. I know I talk about my clients down in Charleston all the time. We've tried for 7 years. There is nothing we can do to drive more demand into Charleston in late August. No matter how good no matter how well we market, no matter how effectively we market, that's a place where the OTAs are incredibly valuable because they can simply bring in a level of demand that an individual property, that's not going to be in their capabilities and probably isn't worth it for them to try to get in their capabilities.
Now, wait. Now, Tim, have you tried to do a whole hotel lockout for a niche group? And have you proposed this to your clients?
So, funny story about that.
Your new marketing
there you go.
Was targeting that on their
guys, Charleston, hey guys, okay, just an out-of-the-box idea for
No, funny that you should bring this up. I actually have a tiny little bit of experience with this. A hotel that I've done some work with, actually removed an adult entertainer from their property because she was live streaming, stuff that was going on in the room. And they
wait a sec. How did they know she was live streaming stuff in the room?
Was this the Ritz-Carlton in Moscow?
No, it's not. The property, for obvious reasons, shall remain nameless. But no, somebody called it to their attention. I don't know how they found out, but somebody called them and said, hey, I happen to know your property because I'm in your restaurant all the time and things along those lines. And, I happen to see that somebody is in your rooms and actually talking about the property while they're doing it. And they're like, yeah, that's not media attention we're really looking for.
Influencer marketing. I don't know.
And you can't, and basically their terms, have things about what you can do commercially in the rooms and stuff like that. So they invited that guest to pack their belongings. And if they would please feel welcome to do that elsewhere in the future, that would be great.
You have to be careful with that, though, because you can also then get a big backlash depending on who that individual is and what's going on. You handle it, right? You have to.
For sure. I believe that they handled it well and with aplomb, and I believe that their feelings were any backlash they were going to get from this particular entertainer was backlash they were certainly willing to live with.
Okay.
Were they saying backlash or backsplash? I'm just curious.
Ew. Moving on.
Then they have no sense of humor.
What else do we have today?
What else? Other news topics? Well, let's see. Intercontinental's taking Kimpton Global, which I think is... I can't believe it took them this long.
Yeah.
But I'm not exactly sure what they were waiting for. So yeah, that's certainly a.
I can chime into something. Topic. I can chime into something that will make Ed feel good, which is always our goal in life. So as I'm talking to people in the audience about GDPR and talking about the importance of GDPR and the blank stares of what GDPR is. I then went over, and some of the people actually, and we've had some great audiences, went over and chimed back to their organizations going, hey, I'm hearing a lot about this GDPR thing. What are we doing about it? And I kid you not, 2 different people from last session came to me and said, I want to show you something. And shows me the text going, we don't think it's worth anything to be concerned about. We're based in the U.S. And
America. I call that the America argument.
America, damn it. And it's like, no, she's like, they're like, I got it. We know. I'm just asking to push the issue with them to kind of look a little bit farther before they just immediately say no. And it says, and one of them was the legal team of the company coming back saying we didn't consider that as being an issue because we're based in America.
America.
Well, they said US, but yeah, America. But anyway, yeah.
The number of them where the legal teams are saying that, is interesting. I think they're looking at from a risk perspective, looking at the overlap of. A, numbers of European guests, B, the likelihood that the European Commission is going to wind up tackling someone who's in wherever they may be, San Francisco or Los Angeles or something like that. It's not a good situation.
Do me a favor. I have a couple links that I've already sent to them. And I think they're probably the same as yours, if not. But can you throw me a couple links that you think are the most authoritative off of this? Because I told them I would kick them a couple of links that they could bring as a little fodder for conversation to their team.
Listen, it takes one drop to poison the well.
Right.
So if you can't say with 100% certainty that your marketing database is completely free of people who interacted with you well in the European Union, not people from the European Union, people who interacted with you while they were in the European Union.
No, European citizens.
No. It's if you had your interaction with that person while they were inside the European Union, you are protected under GDPR. And that's why there is a requirement to have, along with the permissions that you have with someone, there is a requirement to have a record of where they were when you got those permissions. Oh, and by the way, that record cannot be their address. So it's recommended to be IP with the last digit anonymized, so it's not personally identifiable.
And the other part, which we're also not talking much about, is the certification that your team that touches the data has been informed, instructed, and signed off that they are aware of the constraints associated with GDPR.
And actually, the most important, where I think a lot of hotels who are even trying are possibly ill-guided, is it's actually on you as the hotel to have agreement with all of your vendors who are data handlers by definition. A hotel in GDPR would be considered a data controller. You need to have gone through the steps to ask and have agreement with all of your vendors who handle personally identifiable information that they are in compliance on or are in the guidelines of GDPR. So you can't just say my email vendor is taking care of this, because your email vendor is not the only vendor that is handling that information. Your property management system vendor is handling it. A number of other vendors that you use have that information, and it is not acceptable if you get called up by a governing authority over GDPR. It is not acceptable for you to say, oh no, my vendor handles all that. You actually have to show that you've put processes in place to at least attempt to get within the guidelines of the GDPR.
And the only fence across that is anonymization, which if you read any of the Google, Facebook, and AdWords, and Google's being the same thing, throwouts out there right now, the first thing they identify is that our data and data usage is anonymized for our purposes, and therefore in compliance with GDPR, that the usage of our platforms and products with your data is assigned as anonymized, and so therefore we are not necessarily being a contributor to your data. I mean, it's really, they've already done the mea culpa on this.
And this isn't, by the way, this isn't set in stone yet.
Right, exactly. That's the thing, right? The key here is some of this is still a little nebulous and still a little confusing, right? The key point is the right strategy, the right approach is not the ostrich approach. Oh, this couldn't possibly apply to us. We're going to stick our head in the sands and assume there's never any risk to us whatsoever. You know, when we look at stuff like this, we always think in terms of what is the likelihood of things occurring and what is the impact of it occurring. The likelihood may be small for some hotels in the U.S., but the impacts could be large. So if the impacts are large, you should have some plan for how you're dealing with that. If you have a lot of guests who come from the EU or things along those lines, the likelihood goes up a ton, and the impacts are also large. So again, you got to have a plan. It's not, we'll just stick our head in the sand and we'll probably be fine. Not the right approach.
Yeah, that, or nobody else is doing it, so we aren't going to go to, we'll do it when everybody else does, and and by complying with the stuff, you will have better privacy policies and protect yourself, probably in many ways, of bad things happening with your data here in the U.S.
Hey, I actually quote
probably good to have good hygiene.
I quote Ed, but don't give him the credit for it when I go over and say, if you treat the data like it's not yours, you don't have a problem.
Right, that's right.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't quote me. It was actually Stuart who made that point.
Well, I didn't give you credit anyway.
We do say it. So.
I took credit for it like it was my brilliant statement, so I'm really not worried about where it came from. I'm just like, hey, it sounds good. I said it. You don't know where I got it from. It's all good.
I know I've said this before.
Stuart, thank you.
I know I've said this before. My pithy line on this that I use all the time is, you've heard me say it before, content is king, customer experience is queen, and data is the crown jewels. And when talking about that, I'm always basically, you should protect the crown jewels like your business depends upon it. Because ultimately, it does. Right. It does. Exactly.
Yep. If you lose all your data and all that gets information, you're in a bad state. And actually, many years ago, there was a hotel that went independent from a major chain that I was working with, and boy, all their data, disappeared to that large chain, and that large chain distributed all that business across all the competitive properties, not competitive, the former sister properties, and kind of like a nasty divorce, right? So you gotta have this stuff, taken care of properly, or you run into problems.
Good news is it's actually not that hard to show that you're making an effort. It's really not. And it's probably not the EU who's going to call you.
Right.
It's most likely going to be your insurance company who's going to call you. And they're probably not going to call you in 2 weeks. They're probably going to call you sometime in June, July, August after they get hit with a claim that they end up having to defend whether or not they can cover it. Because E&O insurance does cover this, errors and omissions. And general liability on certain types of liability would cover things around this. But the bottom line is, once the insurance companies get bit by this, they're going to reach out to your boss and going to say, hey, we need documentation that you have that shows that you've attempted to get within the guidelines of GDPR. And your boss is just going to forward that to you because your boss probably doesn't know.
Right.
And if your answer is, we haven't done anything, I'm just going to promise you right now, your boss is going to say, all right, we'll start over.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. And for those who have lived through the process back when ADA compliance first rolled out, when the first new rules, not this latest set, but the first rules rolled out, there was a lot of what I called carpetbaggers that came into my hotel, lawyers that were in wheelchairs that didn't need to be in wheelchairs, but they wanted to make their point by running into walls and showing that you were not in compliance. But hey, here's a twist. They won't pursue you if you just write them a check. So make no mistake, there is going to be those type of people that are going to fly to Europe, engage with your email campaigns, and come back and then ask to validate that they would like their data removed. And when you can't prove that you can do that, they're going to say, well, here's the issue. You can give me money so I won't go over and pursue this, or you can go to court and I'm going to go over and hang this over your head. I mean,
actually, here's the good news. It's not going to be that cut and dry.
Right.
If you respond
be
that we will make an effort to get your data removed,
then
you have fulfilled that part of GDPR.
Well,
you do not need to do it quickly yet.
There's supposed to be a definition coming in. There's supposed to be a timeline that gets placed into the removal time.
Yeah, but it's not there.
It hasn't been defined yet. So you at least need to have your people trained enough to say, we will make an effort to get that done.
Well, and a lot of it is, do you have a process? And do you have a process for having a process? You know what I mean? It's you don't have to be golden on day one. It's a little like some ISO certifications. It's, do you have a documented thing that says this is what we do? Do you follow that? Do you review it? And are you updating it periodically to make sure you remain in compliance with the way things go? You know, I'm not saying it's quite as easy as that, but I'm saying that's conceptually what you have to do.
And I would argue that a lot of hotels don't have that process for handling their data, whether or not they're in compliance with GDPR.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
They don't know where it is. It's in these systems, and that's what they run into with all these. You know, they're doing a new interface of, hey, where is this stuff? I don't know. You know, I thought it was over here.
Yeah.
So
where did that list come from? Why do we have it? When was the last time we touched it?
Did you see the article, by the way? This was really interesting. This is slightly off topic, but it was fascinating about CBS News, just to this point, bought 4 photocopiers. And photocopiers made since 2002 have hard drives in them. Give me 1 second. I'm just pulling this up. This was fascinating. Just to the point of, you don't even know what you don't know about where your data is sometimes. So they bought a bunch of photocopiers.
Everything that's been photocopied?
So hear me out. Yeah, this is crazy. This is going to take a moment. I apologize, but it's worth knowing. So they got 4 photocopiers. From the sex crimes unit, there were detailed domestic violence complaints and a list of wanted sex offenders. They literally just got all the images that were stored on these photocopier hard drives of all the faxes, all the photocopies, and all the prints that had been done over whatever period these were owned. On a second machine from the Buffalo Police Narcotics Unit, we found a list of targets in a major drug raid. The third machine from a New York construction company spit out design plans for a building near Ground Zero in Manhattan, 95 pages of pay stubs with names, addresses, and social security numbers, and $40,000 in copied checks. But it wasn't until hitting print on the fourth machine from Affinity Health Plan, a New York insurance company, that we obtained the most disturbing documents. 300 pages of individual medical records. They included everything from drug prescriptions to blood test results to a cancer diagnosis, a potentially serious breach of federal privacy law.
Right.
Yikes! So, you know.
And that nice little, that photocopier works so well because it scanned it, it produced it, and you could do different copies, and it could collate and do all this really cool stuff, which requires some form of memory or storage, right?
So it becomes,
I've had that conversation, yeah.
So it becomes this reality of, you know, you need to have a plan for how you're protecting your customer data. I mean, fundamentally, whether it's GDPR or whether it's regulations that will come down the pike in the US or whatever is irrelevant. You need to have a plan for how you're going to protect your customer data to ensure that you don't find yourself in trouble with somebody down the road or find yourself in trouble with your customers down the road. I mean, ultimately, that's what it boils down to.
Yeah, well, and you said that also was faxes too, right? Because that was being used, had a phone line in, so all the super secure, hey, send it by fax because we don't want this digital, all of a sudden all goes to hell, which is just, that's amazing. Yeah.
Hey guys,
I hate when people need faxes.
Doc, you
I do not possess a fax machine.
Me either.
Actually, if you're capable,
right.
If you're capable of emailing me, sorry, go ahead.
No, after Hurricane Sandy, and I apologize, I'm on like a 6-second lag. I apologize about that. Probably because you guys are going to have to bleep me at some point.
Well, after you said from some sort of experience, talking about that rut-row, yes, we put you on the 6-second delay.
But after Hurricane Sandy, a client of mine, a large company outside the hospitality industry, actually changed their billing process. They went, instead of sending an email with the thing to people who worked in the office, which was the invoice via email, they actually went to a company who required that you faxed an invoice. And I was like, wait a second, I'm going to invoice you for the fact that I'm buying a fax machine to fax you an invoice.
Let me tell you though, my government client, things had to be by fax, CD. They hated thumb drives. I mean, thumb drive not good, sort of thing. Much easier, and it's the whole security versus convenience spectrum, right? I mean, that's a tough one.
I'm sorry, Lauren. Yeah, I got to duck. I'm going to do. If anybody's a He-Man fan, I got to invoke the power of Grayskull and ask that Stewart and Ollie jump in. And see if they, I have the power to see if they can drag them in, but I got to duck for this. I'm going to leave the computer on for a few more minutes because we are based on Facebook. So I've always had the concern if I duck, what happens? But I'm going to leave it on, and in about 10, 15 minutes, I'm actually just going to shut off it and see if it should. You guys are administrators, so it should be fine because I think this happened before and it was okay. But I can't remember clearly. Do you remember when we were on Facebook and I ducked out whether it stayed on?
No.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to leave it on for a while.
We don't.
Yeah, I'm going to leave it on for a while in this room over here because we're not using it yet. And then I'll come back in a little bit and shut off, but hopefully they'll be able to pipe in. But guys, thank you so much. I appreciate it. I'm sorry I had to duck out early. I mean,
good luck today.
It should be fun. It always is fun. And like I said, we may have esteemed guests listening to us from Ahoa that I had the pleasure of meeting some in our last session, and they said they would try to pipe into the show and see what all the conversation is about. So,
well, if you're watching, find where Lauren left his computer and come on by. Because Lauren's computer is open.
Yeah.
And we can give you instructions on what to do.
Do not listen to Ed. Don't listen to Ed. He'll make your screen go upside down in Spanish. All right, guys. I'm going to turn my mic and the camera off for now. Thank you very much. I'll talk to you soon.
Have a great day, Lauren. We had a security policy. I worked for Charles Schwab back in the 90s, and we had a security policy that you had to lock your workstation when you left your computer. And we had a long-standing prank in the office that whenever anybody would walk away and leave their screen unlocked, you would simply go and you would open up an email you'd open up an email for them, address it to Chuck Schwab, and basically just write a rant about how much you hated working for him. He was an awful son of a, whatever.
So dangerous.
Just leave it sitting up on their desktop when they came. Well, the whole point was don't leave your workstation unlocked, right?
Right.
It
And
was
then
too
they come back from their break. They drop their donut onto their keyboard because the screen is blank. Happens to hit the enter key. Yeah.
Yeah. See,
yeah.
at Flip2, we actually have the same policy.
Yeah.
And the policy is not that you write the email and just leave it up. The policy is if the person made a double faux pas, meaning they were logged into their personal social media accounts and left their computer open, if it's the first time you got them, you go light.
Yeah.
If they're a multiple offender, you ratchet it up. So one of the popular things in our office to do is there's a lot of strong feelings about college football teams in this office.
Oh, sure.
So the popular thing to do is praise the rival,
arch rival,
wherever you went to school on social. And then immediately go and like and share and comment from your own account, so that way it's cemented in history. And,
exactly.
And it's amazing. Even the most lackadaisical security person that we've ever had only does it about 3 times. Because it's relentless. It's, go ahead and blank out the Google Doc they left open. Just save it to another doc somewhere else, but blank out the one they've been working on for hours.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. It creates a security culture out of making it fun.
Well, that's what the Schwab thing did for sure.
Right.
You almost never saw anybody come back, find a letter to Chuck with the internet acronym IHTFP written out in big letters and stuff in their email. For them, it usually didn't take more than 2 of those for people to go, I really should lock my. It'd be great because you'd see people they'd get up and walk out of their cube, they'd get about 3 feet away and go, whoa, and turn around and walk back in and lock and stuff.
Yep. Yeah, it's a good way to do it.
Yeah.
Now, so I got somebody at a conference once with that because they left their, they walked away and just left their computer on and wide open and on their email. So there was somebody who was sitting behind. Actually, it was Valen Perini. Come to think of it. It was a Focusrite guy. I'll call him out. Timothy O'Neill Dunn. I don't think he does it anymore, but Timothy went and walked away or something. Valen was right behind him, and oh, Valen, we're going to have some fun here. And or actually, no, I didn't tell her initially. I sent an email from him, basically expressing Timothy's unrequited love and how he just could not, hold it in anymore, and his deep affection for Valen. So I sent it. She's sitting right behind it. She gets this email and it kind of gets this, odd look on her face. I go, but why don't we have some fun with Timothy and play along, shall we? So she sent back a note saying, oh, I had no idea or something. We should discuss it. So anyway, Timothy, comes back, sees this little email thread, and I'm sitting right next to him, just minding my own, but just horrified. What the hell is going on? It was quite good. I don't think he leaves his computer open anymore.
Yeah, that'll do it.
But anyway.
All right.
Oh, yeah.
So what else do we have on the list today?
What do we have on the list?
A lot of stuff.
Let's see. Now, you guys should know, having poured. Okay, here's one. This is actually there is a lot of battling now going on between the and let this kind of direct, the direct booking thing being, quote, debunked. There's now the HNLA came out with fraudulent hotel bookings hit $5.2 billion in 2017. And this is the whole thing that you have these fake hotel bookings being done through these OTAs, and it's all very nefarious. And it's like, no, that's probably an affiliate who just did whatever. And I mean, it's the numbers complete garbage in my opinion. I mean, they've just kind of, ratcheted this thing up, and now they've given it to Congress, and there's a bill out there that's basically saying that you can't do, certain things without a direct contract with the hotel, right? And that's the big thing, which basically kills any sort of affiliate program, which I believe is probably the underlying intent to do this, which of course,
I'm surprised that even made it that far, because that's so antitrust, if there's ever been antitrust of antitrusting, because it's being thinly veiled under the idea of fraudulent hotel bookings. But here's the thing, they're valid contract rates. They're just not being applied correctly.
Right.
So having control over who you give contracted rates to and actually self-enforcing. See, the problem is a lot of hotels don't want to enforce any type of penalty against the company who's committing the no-no, because they don't want to lose any of the other business from it. Right. But there are big tour operators that are well known for selling their their packaged rate to companies that are just publishing them online and booking them through that affiliate. But that's not. And it's so here's the thing: if you as a hotel, if you as a hotel are not enforcing the terms of your agreement with a wholesaler, then you can't turn around and ask the government to step in because you're not enforcing your own agreed upon terms. Now, on the other side of it, if you do turn around and fight, and I recently brought this up with Westgate, and Westgate, if you remember, I had maybe last year put up this story about Westgate doing a lawsuit against one of these companies. It was amazing. As soon as that lawsuit was just filed, Westgate disappeared off that site. And haven't had a problem with it since. And so what did it cost Westgate to file the lawsuit? I mean, they have their own counsel.
Thousands of dollars, but not hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Right.
And $5,000, right?
And the problem went away. And now every affiliate who they have a problem with, all they have to do is show, we are not afraid to file a lawsuit against you. Bada bing, bada boom, problem solved. But the other thing this damages in doing this is it damages the affiliate networks that power Expedia and Hotels.com. And if you don't know, I mean, I don't know what they call it now, but if you remember, it used to be called Ian. And that's where a large amount of their booking volume would come from, our affiliate sites. Absolutely. And so this just happens to splash over on making it to where those are no longer necessarily allowed either. I have a feeling that's the actual thing that's funding this getting up to Washington, not the whole fix the issue of my traditional wholesaler selling on their rate plan to be publicly available.
Right. Yeah. No.
So
exactly.
short story long. I made that.
Yeah. No. I don't know what percentage of business Ian provides. It's probably in the quarterly. Well, I don't know. Maybe it's not released officially.
It used to be all these massive.
Oh, it is. It's a big number. It's my understanding, and that's also my understanding is that organization is now where Marriott is handling their packaging and things like that. All the different groups who are using that are all in this affiliate network program, right? Because that's where they're now all the white label stuff, everything now goes there because Expedia has centralized all their platforms. But no, another thing I shouldn't say to the tour operators because they should have controls for this, but again, it's a business model for how you distribute and sell this stuff. So if you're out selling packaged rates to someone say overseas, right? And maybe you're an inbound, you have an into the US, and you go, yes, this has to be sold in a package. Well, it's somewhat on the honor system because you might not be handling the air for that through your system.
Right.
You may not have the fares there. So on one side of it, you go, well, that's good. You're getting this discounted rate out into Singapore where it can be bundled with God knows what, and they're coming in and hey, they're spending a couple weeks and wow, great piece of business, versus that thing being stripped down, being cut undercut the retail rate and then popped out on a Momo or something. Who knows, wherever they may be sending that out to sell it and violate rate parity, right? So and the way to track those down is you basically, it costs the hotels a little bit, but I've advised people, and we did it when I was at Mark Travel, where we started seeing, weird rates, going on, which we thought either the hotel was violating rate parity with us or we booked it, right? Just to see, so you could yank on the end of the string and see what moved well, there it is. And some of these were absolutely crazy, but a lot of hotel companies, especially with the global financial crisis, they had at one time fairly substantial groups who were out figuring this stuff out, and those were one of the first things that went with the downturn. We were talking earlier about when business is strong, right? You have these dynamics versus when it's down, all of a sudden you rely on these OTAs. Almost all the major hotel brands just went, oh, forget it. Don't even monitor that. We're happy to get the business. We don't care, right? Do they care? Yes, but structurally they cut the labor in the group that was controlling the stuff, and they have some automation that does it, but not that. It's not that easy tracking this stuff down for people who are really systemically violating the rules of the system. So
right.
Which is actually also how all this European rate parity issue started. It was Dorian Harris at Scoosh, and Scoosh was a little online travel agency whose business model was to violate these agreements. They would take package rates and opaque rates and then sell them on a retail basis and then complain that the hotels would shut them off, right? And what did they do? They went to the British Competition Authority and they went, oh, that sounds, and they made the bizarre accusation that the hotels were colluding with the OTAs to shut out, new players like Scoosh. It's like, no, there's nothing like that going on. But that has now rolled into all of this rate parity and light rate parity and all this stuff, which is still getting, not sorted out that well. So,
yeah, I have one.
The other hotels. Oh, go ahead.
No, I have one quick thought. It's probably not going to be super popular with some segment of our audience, but what was total room revenue sold in the U.S. last year? $200 billion, $220 billion, or something like that. Sure. This is 1% of revenue, right? Now obviously it's going to be distributed. If we assume the number is correct, it's 1% of revenue at most, right? Means it's going to hit some hotels disproportionately high. It's going to hit some hotels not at all. If this is really an issue, then everything you guys said makes total sense. It's up to a certain degree, it's up to the hotels to go after the partners who aren't being good partners and say, hey, you guys are screwing us, fix this, right? And like Westgate
and there is a cost. Yeah. And there's a cost with doing that. Sure. The same as the GDPR stuff. They go, you know what? The return on this, low frequency, low severity, whatever. Where GDPR is kind of a low frequency, high severity issue.
Right.
But they go, not worth our money paying attention to it. So
and my take is not that we can't walk and chew gum at the same time, but I just think there are bigger fish to fry. I think there are way more important things that we should be focused on than something like this. Personally. Yeah. Well, if you're kind of a hotel who's getting hammered by this, that's a specific issue. But again, Westgate, I think, gave a really good blueprint for how you handle that.
Yeah.
And also on this, where you look at the the backlash of basically this is like being used badly. There's another thing that I posted: fake hotels, the new weapon of choice for fraudsters. And it's like, oh, come on! And this is the most convoluted that the hotel. This is from eNet, which is part of Travelport, and they came out, and I don't know who did the research, but they're claiming $21 billion, which is of accommodation booking fraud. But they're saying about, you build this fake hotel and then the fraudster, books it with a bad credit card and it goes through and I'm sure there is a slice of this, but that isn't really directly hitting yes, it may be if your hotel is the hotel that's being maybe, but I mean, Expedia doesn't want this to happen. Booking.com doesn't want this to happen. The hoteliers don't want this to happen. So where this is going on is really in kind of the shady corners of the industry.
I have a strong opinion. A strong opinion. That's not true. I have an opinion about this stuff. When people are engaged in stuff that is blatantly criminal behavior, you make the relevant authorities aware of it, and you know what I mean? Like, yeah, exactly. We got jobs to do. Let's let the law enforcement officials, do their jobs too. Like, again, I'm not saying it's not important. I'm not saying it's something we should utterly ignore, but raise it to the appropriate authorities that, hey, this is going on, and then go on to other stuff that you actually can and should be controlling in your day-to-day life.
Right. Yeah.
So should we talk about, actually, there were a couple, before we can talk about kind of Facebook's new, some of their new travel search things. Burger King, which I know isn't directly it is hospitality, but we normally don't talk about restaurants very often, did a very interesting process with Instagram stories. And so these Instagram stories are a little bit interesting, and the knock on them is you can only address these to your followers on Instagram, right? But I think it's outrageously powerful. What they did was, and are you guys getting an echo? I'm getting an echo with me. It's probably Lauren.
I get an echo when you're talking. Yeah.
You do? Okay. What's gone? I don't know. Hey, it's gone. Very good. So anyway, the Burger King, what they wound up doing was you could build your own hamburger, because again, these stories have some interactivity where you can start clicking on I want this versus that and give people choices. So what they did is they let people through this Instagram story go and build their own hamburger, and then you got a coupon to be able at a Burger King, which I thought was absolutely brilliant. And they had like 53,000 or somewhere around 50,000 followers. I can't remember how many. It's in the article. A lot of play, right? I mean, they ran out of coupons very, very quickly. They got 5,000 new followers just by people talking about, hey, you should try this out. You can go make your own hamburger, sort of thing. I just thought that was very, very good, because it was tied into the brand. It was relevant. It wasn't just this extraneous go do something crazy. It was actually tied to the product that they produce. It was personalized. It was interactive. And I've got to think a lot of smart brands are going to wind up starting to use some of these methods more effectively, and they certainly should.
Yeah.
Comments?
Yes, I completely agree. Yeah.
Okay. Well, good. Hey, I was hoping for a one-syllable answer.
What I like about it a lot, all the things you just said. You said something really important. Was it's very on brand, right? It's very, what does Burger King always offer? They've always offered the fact that you can get your burger the way you like, right?
Absolutely.
So the fact
True to
that
their brand.
Yeah. So it wasn't just a one-off promotion designed to, generate a little buzz or things like that. It looks like it was a test, because it looks like it was relatively small, There's a lot to like about this in terms of how they learned it. And even if it had gone badly, there's a lot to like about it because they tested and learned from it. And now they can say, okay, we know how we would approach this the next time. I suspect for a restaurant like Burger King, I bet people came and picked up their burgers, also bought a soda, also bought some fries and things along those lines. So there might have been a little bit of revenue there. I think it was a really smart idea.
Yeah, and the ability on, especially on Instagram, with what they've done, just with the ability to go, swipe up to get more information, and you get linked off to another site and things like that. I mean, they've done some very interesting things to make what started out as just, oh, look at that picture, I'm going to share a photo and nothing else. Isn't that a pretty picture?
Right.
Or a funny picture? To now commercialize that, and with Facebook, I think they're doing some pretty interesting things. Which
well, again, go ahead. No, all I was going to say was I liked the creativity of it. I liked the we're trying to use this in a way to connect with our customers, and I bet, and I'm confident they measured this because they did it with Y&R, who are a very good agency. They're smart folks. Burger King has had great marketing for years in terms of their advertising strategy. I bet that they are also tracking, did people who come and get the burger share with their friends this thing? What did these media impressions net them, et cetera? So they've probably got a reasonable sense of what this got them in terms of media exposure, awareness to other people. Yes, this was only valid to their followers, but how many of their followers shared this with people who, would be useful, and how many of their followers probably aren't regularly talking about Burger King that now are, right? So, I mean, there's a lot to like about this.
Yeah, well, and Facebook now has their trip consideration, their trip consideration tool, which basically allows you to, if you have expressed interest in a destination, it's a pixel-based thing, in some sort of conversion event where you basically kind of go, yeah, I'm interested in this cruise, I'm interested in this destination, that sort of thing. All of a sudden, you can now start really doing some very interesting targeting. So not just that you liked this, but a behavior actually on Facebook that you click through on something. Now you can start doing more things. So and they're trying to get to the real top of the funnel on this travel intention in the inspiration phase, to try to get advertising up there, which again I think is going to be very, very powerful, probably going to be abused and used very poorly. I don't know, maybe that will kill things, but again, they can, you can wind up doing some very interesting stuff. They can also apply it with their collection ads, where it isn't just one ad for one part. You can have a series of ads, come through for, if you're in a different business, different products or whatever, that might be whatever, if it was fashion or makeup or something like that, you could have all sorts of different variations. Same thing with hotels, right? You could, if you're a brand, you have multiple properties in the destination, that sort of thing. It handles all that, all that sort of thing. So ties in with
it's the kind of thing a hotel can do that they should be doing more of, right? When we talk about an OTA, when we talk about Booking.com, when we talk about Expedia, and actually this is something Ed talks about a lot, so I'm Ed, I might be stealing your thunder a tiny little bit. We're talking about Facebook's new, Facebook's new advertising platform for hotels and things along those lines. But what's great about this is it is more focused on top of funnel. It is selling the destination first, right? Booking.com, Expedia, those guys are very well optimized at getting people to pull out their credit card when they're ready to buy. What hotels need to do is they need to get people interested in coming to their destination and coming to their property in the first place. And there's a reason for this that I think people overlook a lot, that is kind of dumb, but it's so dumb people overlook it a lot. There was a study a couple of years ago that said, if people came to your hotel website, they booked through your hotel website X% of the time, and they booked through an OTA Y% of the time, right? And I don't remember what the X and Y were, but they booked through the OTA a lot, but they booked it through the hotel some value greater than zero, right? Okay. if they started their journey on an OTA, they booked through the OTA X% of the time, and they booked through a hotel website Y% of the time. And the X in this case was 90 times larger than the Y, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Because, and this is the part that's the dumb part, people are afraid to say this out loud because it kind of sounds dumb. But guess what? They can't ever book you directly if they never come to your website in the first place, right?
Right.
So doing stuff that gets people to your website is unabashedly a good thing, because if they don't come, the odds that they will book direct is literally 0%.
Zero.
Well,
Zero.
And what's interesting, the number of hotels who are considering meta search to be a direct links to their website, you kind of go, kind of. If you look at that article I posted by Booking.com, they look at meta search as that is an indirect booking, right?
Yeah.
That is not someone, they are looking at direct bookings in the most pure sense of the word, where they typed in Booking.com maybe to a search engine, right? Which, again, if you look on SimilarWeb, that's where the vast majority of the keywords that are driving in are people are looking for Booking.com, or they just typed it straight in the browser and went straight to the site. Those are direct. Right?
Well, and I'm going to link. I would link to the research if I can remember where I saw it. I think I saw this last week while I was on vacation. It might have been the week before when I was heading out. So I'm a little underwater on this one. But somebody posted some great research that showed there's a large chunk of people who book through Meta who've already decided where they're going, and they're simply using Meta to see if they can find a better deal after the fact. So again, it's not necessarily any customer you couldn't have gotten.
Well, it's
anyway.
the same effect
it's just
as
shopping for a deal, right?
It's the same effect as what we've talked about with AAA.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, it's and that's the challenge with any of those types of channels, is they're attribution thieves.
Right.
They'll tell you that if you weren't on my channel, you would never have gotten any of these bookings. And then you push them a little bit and they go, a really small percentage are overlap. But the truth is...
We were testing a remarketing service from a name you would know. I don't want to call them out because it was one test for one hotel. So this could have been a one-off. I don't want to say this is unequivocally true. But they were claiming attribution for a fair number of reservations. And when we looked at seasonally adjusted reservations and the like for the property, they gained no additional reservations. They were getting about what they should have gotten relative to everything else that was going on. And, but suddenly this other service was claiming attribution on like 20% of their reservation, of their direct reservations.
Unfortunately, there is a slew of available products today that really get by on knowing that there's a large amount of this industry that analytically doesn't know what's going on and doesn't know how to do comparisons before and after. And they're attribution thieves. That's really what they are. They're attribution thieves.
And
I'll tell you this
about these specific guys because, again,
and you shouldn't, because
but in this specific case, I won't call them attribution thieves. I will say that they were claiming credit for stuff that the underlying data did not support.
Right.
And if they were doing what they claimed they'd be doing, we would have had a lot more people in rooms that we did not have.
And here's the thing. I just want you, when you're looking at something and you're trying to decide, is this thing I'm going to do going to actually get me more bookings? I want you to ask yourself a couple of things. One, does it at all bring you a new audience? Two, what is the likelihood of that to be overlap of your existing audience? Then do the math between those questions. And then three, for the cost, how do I feel this is going to land in the grand scheme of things? If you do that, and you can understand that just by looking at the user flow of whatever you're looking at. Like if the thing is only on your website, I can tell you 100% it is not bringing you any new customers. And I can tell you with great certainty that a unacceptable percentage of the reservations they take credit for will be people who would have booked with you anyways. So that means the cost should be cheap, like super cheap.
That's right.
Like
That's right.
This should not be in the hundreds of dollars a month. It should be less than that. And if it is, then there's nothing wrong with it.
That's right.
Right? The
That's right.
problem is there's a lot of tech out there that's being sold that is really premium pricing, and it's attribution theft. They're just counting on the fact that you have no sophistication in your analytics, and you're just going to do what you're going to do.
Well, if I can make 2 quick points on that. One, I just want to make explicit something you just implied. I think you're saying the same thing I'm going to say, but I want to make this very explicit, which is, one of the questions you want to ask about that is, are they getting me something I couldn't have done on my own? Right?
Right.
It's right, that's
truly
not fair.
Incremental.
That will wipe out most of the vendors in this space.
Well, no. I mean,
I'm just kidding.
no,
I'm kidding. It's a joke.
No, but I mean, that's something that you should look at. Is there a better way for me to do this, doing it myself? And the answer can be no, right? I mean, the answer can be yes. Yeah, there's somebody I can't reach any better way. I should totally, a la my example of putting people in Charleston in August, right? I mean, that's one. The other one is there's a fantastic book. I wish everybody would read this book. I'm not going to lie, it gets a little dense in the middle section, but the guy even tells you at the end of one chapter, you can skip to it's at chapter 12. He's like, you can skip to chapter 20 if you want. But it's called How to Measure Anything, Measuring the Value of Intangibles in Business. And he's got these great rules in there. And one of them is, if it matters at all, it is measurable, right? Like and I always flip that one around, in a way that as a marketer sometimes has bitten me, but it's true. If you can't see any evidence that it worked, it didn't work. Right. Like, if it's that hard to pull out the data, guess what? It's probably not there. And if you're doing these new marketing things, or you're going with this new vendor, or you're using this new service, and the number of rooms you're selling is what you were selling before or has gone up marginally, the likelihood that the marketing is the new stuff is contributing to that is pretty much zero.
Right. So it better be cheap.
Right. Or you better have it for a very short period and you're conducting a test, right?
Right. So, but you can also, without measurement, just use common sense. What's the user journey? And this is the challenge with like some of this tech is people think you can't think through the user journey, but like retargeted ads, that's really easy. Ask them to give you a customer that they're doing retargeted ads for. Then go to that hotel's website and then go surf the internet. Right. And you tell me if the experience being served up is of value to you or not. Right. You can answer that question.
Right.
And I'm not saying this like I think it's not valuable. I'm just saying it's up to you on if you think it's valuable to your business.
Right.
It's a lot of this stuff, if you put aside that it's technology, just track the consumer journey.
Right.
And just ask yourself, will travelers respond to this? Will this bring me more travelers? Will I have better relationships with my travelers? What's the downside? Because that's not asked enough. And you have to understand a lot of things you do with your travelers. Yes, you have trackable revenue, but you're not tracking the true cost.
Negative. Right.
Yeah, and the negative KPI. Yeah. Every email you send to someone that is completely wrong, like they do not like that you sent that email, that has a cost. So if you're at a large scale where an email you send brings you hundreds of thousands of dollars, I can tell you that's if it's not a good email, then it's also costing you hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars in lifetime value. And you need to accept that. Yeah. So
absolutely.
And it's common sense.
Absolutely. Well, and in many cases, the hotel groups and the hotels are not doing themselves any favors. Right. I had a conversation actually last week with Holly just about some. We're talking about WordPress and kind of site architecture and things like that. Because I'm a WordPress fan, and now Holly, because she can code, wants to build everything herself, right? So I was having kind of the Salesforce and WordPress conversation versus build little bits of code bolted on as opposed to the whole universe. But anyway,
Yes.
I started explaining with some of the architecture of how you start looking at things with destinations and brands and how these interact. Nobody has really. There is a solution to this, right? There's nice little site architecture and templates, at least in the WordPress vernacular, to make this go, and nobody's really done it yet. I was thinking maybe Holly could go do this, but who knows? We'll see. The conversation continues. But the example I used were two. One was Marriott. Go to Google and hotels in Los Angeles, right? Marriott has 120 properties in that area. What do you come up with? Well, first of all, Google at the top, has their map, and they, even if you click to more hotels, you've got 25 right there, right?
Yeah,
and they've done some stuff on relevance and what's most important, things like that. That's a pretty good list. Okay, so the next listing, first organic listing, there is no advertising related to this, I don't believe. No ads at all, because Marriott successfully blocked anybody from advertising on their keyword, right? They aren't advertising themselves. First organic listing. And actually, with Google there, with the map and everything, there is an argument that you might want to bid on your own keyword. That's a whole other discussion for us. But that's interesting background noise. Is that Ed or is that Lauren? So, I don't know. But anyway,
can you hear me?
I could hear you.
That's me.
You have an ad?
Oh, okay.
The mute button
Oh.
does not operate on this.
Oh, okay.
It's a new headset for me. Let me go ahead and.
There you go.
There he is. That's okay. But the first organic listing is top hotels in Los Angeles, Marriott Los Angeles hotels, which is great. That landing page has 11 properties that are only, and you go, what are you doing? You have 120 of these. The next one down is the Marriott Los Angeles, the airport property, Marriott downtown. And then the interesting one, whoever is doing SEO for Hotel Planner, I should talk to Bruce Rosenberg about this. They need a raise, because the next three sites, and again, I've just went in, incognito mode. Now maybe it's picking this off of, for some reason, an IP address or something in Dallas and preference. I don't know the level of personalization that they're really doing on that when it's incognito. But Hotel Planner then has the next three results. All Marriott hotels and resorts in Los Angeles with a $64 plus, all Courtyard by Marriott hotels, all Residence Inn by Marriott hotels, all Hotel Planner sites, right?
Yep.
Right.
Hotel Planner, whoever is doing that for them, is really good, because I see it a lot too.
Right.
That's what I said. Yeah. They need a bonus or a raise. Then under that, Expedia, hotels.com, and interestingly, Yelp, right? So in this, Booking.com, Priceline's been completely shut out. Hotel Planner's taken but again, you look at Marriott and go, no, what the heck are you doing? Where if you.
Robert froze.
Yeah, he did. Oh,
wow, Robert got booted. Wow.
Hotel Planner's SEO guy's like, shh.
That dude's got mad skills.
Yeah, he does.
Well, I feel bad because Robert just got thrown off, and then I just realized what time it was, and I'm going to have to bolt, and he's going to come back, and there's going to be nobody here.
Yeah, he's going to be like, hello. So, Tim, if people would like to learn more about the things you care about, where should they go?
They should go to timpeter.com, Ed, or they can find me on Twitter using the Twitter handle @TCPeter.
Well, that's fantastic.
And if they want to learn more about the marvelous work that you do and that Flip2 does, where can they find you?
They can find us on the interwebs at flip.to, and you can connect with me on any of the social sites, Edward St. Onge. And with that, since Robert isn't coming back, I'm going to take this opportunity to eat lunch.
Yeah, exactly. All right, folks, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
It's been really great. For those of you watching, thanks so much for joining in. Great show today, and we'll look forward to seeing you next week. I actually won't be here next week. I will be on a plane from Amsterdam, so I will see you all in 2 weeks. So have a great show next week. Well, that's right. Have a great show, and see y'all in a couple weeks.
See you later.
Bye, everybody. Oh.